We'll wait patiently.
Yeah.
All the Periscope and Twitter people are thinking they're real cool while the YouTube people are sitting there waiting.
Isn't that how it usually happens, though?
It is. It is.
And here we go.
And here we go. Are we up on YouTube? There we go.
We're
live
up.
on YouTube. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Crypto Campfire podcast. This is the Professor.
And Mitch.
And today we're going to be talking with Tommy Kimmelman, the head of artist relations at Nifty Gateway. But before we start talking to, there's no,
there is no crypto
we just
news.
talked about it.
Wait, go ahead. Okay, so the crypto's news today, Bitcoin hit 40.
No, back up. But first, let's grab that crypto news from the Crypto Mitch.
And Bitcoin hit 40 grand today. And then it went back down into the high 30s. So no big pullback there. And that's your crypto news.
There you go. There's your crypto news from the day. Thanks a lot, Crypto Mitch. Tell me what's going on, man. Welcome to the show.
What's up, guys? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we're stoked to have you on here. This is going to be a fun one. We've gotten really, really deep into NFTs over the past 6 months, especially on the podcast here. And
love it.
Nifty Gateway is obviously pretty much in the news every day. You know, it's like the big thing right now. The drops are crazy. The amount of money going through the website is freaking insane. But before we started getting into Nifty Gateway, let's take a step back and look at you a little bit here. We like to focus on the community. So how did you get into crypto and what got you hooked on it?
Yeah, so it's interesting, actually. I had some background knowledge in crypto before I fully dove into the NFT space. Just some basic investing, nothing major, but I definitely understood it and realized the value of the blockchain. And then I graduated college in 2019 and was looking for a job. And I had a family friend who worked at Gemini, which is the company that owns Nifty Gateway. I was talking to her husband about potential roles since I'm close with him as well. And he got me in touch with her, and she explained Nifty Gateway to me and said, hey, they're looking for their first hire, something in business development in the NFT space. So I was like, what is an NFT? I'd never heard it before. And then, started doing that initial research, spoke with Duncan and Griffin, the co-founders, a little bit. And they gave me some more background info. And then, the next step was preparing for an interview phase where I did a deep dive into it. And I definitely understood the value prop at that point, and really started to slowly get hooked on it. And then it wasn't until, my first few weeks in the job where I started seeing a lot of the, these NFT projects in action to where I really got hooked on it and understood the full value prop of the blockchain. And it's been exponential since then. Every day I've spent in the space, I become more and more excited about it. So it's been a lot of fun.
It's hard to not fall down rabbit hole after rabbit hole. I mean, you turn over one more stone in crypto and you find 18 different rabbit holes. So
100%. Yeah.
Even just in the NFT space, I mean, it's crazy how fast things are changing and how fast they're moving. I mean, I've known about NFTs for quite a while, and we've interviewed people that have done NFTs and artists and stuff, even up to as much as 2 years ago. But I actually didn't get my hands wet until about June of last year, June of 2019 is when I first minted. And just even in that short time, everything it's not even the same. The space is totally different than it was.
Yeah, for sure. And I think we're starting to see a lot more mainstream partners come in, which has been great. It's really starting to get it seen by the masses a little bit more. So we love to see that. And that's kind of our main goal. It was a really intentional decision of ours when we were first starting Nifty Gateway to not just focus on a lot of the artists already in the space, but artists outside of the space as well. We really wanted to focus on targeting their audiences. So we see a ton of new customers come in every day. That's really exciting. And we're just trying to keep growing it out.
So tell us a little bit about tonight's drop.
Tonight was Jam Sutton and 6 and 5. So that was cool. Jam was doing this really awesome project that came with an NFT, and each buyer of the NFT also gets an AR marker, which basically with that, you scan a QR code on your phone and then you can view the actual artwork via an AR filter, which is super cool. So his went really well. We've been, expanding into physical items paired with the NFTs a lot lately. So that kind of fit the bill there. And then 6 and 5 is this really, really talented designer. And he did 5 different NFTs, an auction, and the other 4 were editions. And that sold out incredibly fast. And, I was excited about it, and I knew he was going to do well. And then there was a ton of hype on Twitter about it today and yesterday. So, going into the drop, I was like, did we price this thing a little bit too low? But, it sold out. So that was great to see. Auction piece is already up over 15K. So really successful night overall.
That's really cool. Now you mentioned something about physical, taking physical things and creating NFTs. So is this kind of along the lines of saying taking the title of a vehicle, for example, and creating an NFT, which then puts that title on the blockchain and you are the current owner? So that kind of
Yeah.
leads us into the next phase of all of the technologies, being that we can put our physical items like our mortgages and all that stuff through NFTs onto the blockchain.
It's a little bit different in the sense that basically, like, I'll give you a good example. We had a drop with Beeple recently, who's a really, really talented 3D animator and motion designer. And his drop was amazing, partly because each NFT came with an actual tablet display that you could view it on. So it's not really directly linked to the blockchain. There is a QR code on it that you can scan, and it leads you to the actual NFT. But the NFT itself isn't like directly paired with the physical object, in that you could still sell the NFT and the physical object will be separate from it in that sense. So it's kind of only paired through a QR code, a little bit different than getting into storing like mortgages and house deeds and stuff like that.
But I
on the
mean,
blockchain.
that's current. So do you see that as a future thing that NFTs would, I guess that's kind of more what my question was leaning to, is that in the future we may see more of that. Is that about right?
For sure.
Or okay.
Yeah, definitely right. I totally see it happening. Just building like a seamless way to verify those things, all in the blockchain. We're totally going to get there. I think it's just a matter of time, before we do. And I think for us, when we were first like getting started in Nifty Gateway, these are all things that we were thinking about. But the reason why we ended up on crypto art specifically is because it's like the easiest to grasp, right? And there's an immediate value prop for that, and people were already doing it. So that's kind of the direction we decided to take it for that reason. But in the future, we do see all of those things happening. It's more just a matter of when, not if.
Right on.
Yeah, it's a huge part of the future in the NFT world. It's a big real world use case that links blockchain into it. I mean, there's so many. It goes so far beyond vehicle titles, and
Yep.
it goes to real estate, and it goes to even like voting and that kind of thing. Trying to tie real life things. In this case, in voting, it would be a person,
voting.
right? A person to an NFT, right? Versus a card to an NFT or something like that. But the biggest issue is obviously that link, right? How do you bridge that gap from physical to digital, and then assure that it's never destroyed and cannot be fraudulently, anything. I mean, it's really easy to stamp something with like a private key or something like that, but there's not really yet. We haven't found a good way to necessarily encode something. And I've actually seen some people theorizing about like coding DNA and shit in some way to try and link stuff like that. I don't know. I don't know what they're talking about, but either way, we're going to see some really interesting attempts, I think, to try to make that connection between the physical and the digital world.
Yeah, for sure. And it's kind of like preliminary right now. Like there's not a perfect way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
For us, like with the AR markers, there's not really anything at all that's like connecting it to the token. It's just like, oh, like if you buy this token, you'll also get this physical item. So, definitely not a perfect solution, but it at least kind of adds like a physical component to it a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it's the intermediary stuff, right? Just like right now, it's you can mint an NFT, but it costs $100. So yeah.
Well, that's that's why we're excited about ETH 2.0.
Exactly. It's one of those things. It used to be so cheap, and then it just when ETH the network gets busy, it goes up like that. And that's, like we say, it's kind of the Netscape time period, right? We've got a really nice functional product, but it's still got a lot of issues, and it's only been around for a handful of years, so it's very young, and we're still developing a lot, and it's going to change the fucking world.
So is it safe to say that the NFTs have created all that business on the blockchain that's caused the gas
between
prices
NFTs
to go
and
through the
DeFi?
roof?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely a combination of those two. I mean, I think, and then especially lately, just with the price of Ethereum going up and the mainstream attention coming to crypto, there's just a lot more transactions happening. But even before that, back when ETH was, steady in the 500s and 400s, there's been this big NFT boom from the last 9 months. So I think that has to contribute to it at least a little bit.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about what you've been doing to try to keep yourself from going insane during quarantine. I know we're all sort of in various stages at this point. It was kind of all the same in March, and then we've all been in, depending on what stage you've been in or what country you're in, just totally different stages of quarantine. But
Mhm.
I understand you've been practicing guitar quite a bit, but what else have you been doing?
A little bit.
What, a
Don't know
lot
how you
bit?
knew that. You've done your research.
We have an excellent research department that finds all kinds of tidbits. So yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, that's one of the things I've been doing. And honestly, just really immersing myself in Nifty Gateway has been pretty easy. I think partly due to just the increased demand that we've seen and like the success of our drop. So I've been putting a lot of my energy there. And then, always watching new Netflix show when they come out and stuff like that. The Queen's Gambit, that was my recent one. Really, really good.
Oh,
I
Rebecca
don't know if
just
you guys seen
told
that.
us that we had to watch it, and I promised her I would, and I haven't yet. So I should probably do that.
Yeah, it's good. It's about like chess, and I'm not really a chess player myself, but it was like one of the top shows on Netflix. My girlfriend was like bugging me to watch it, and really good. So yeah, that's
Nice.
pretty much been it. I also moved. I was in New York City from March until June during pandemic time, and or no, sorry, much longer than June. March until November, and then moved out to Boulder, Colorado in November since my lease was ending, and like obviously we're remote right now, so that's been interesting and like a fun journey. So
That's awesome. I love it.
yeah, where are you
Find the
guys
mute
based, by
button.
the way?
I was like, Mitch is about to say something.
So,
Well, he's finding his mute button. I'm in Montana.
Gotcha.
oh, and I'm in Michigan.
Yeah,
Hey,
it's fucking cold.
I
It's
spent the
cold.
last week and a half in the South. I was in Arkansas and then Texas and then Oklahoma, and I just got back to Michigan yesterday, and I'm already ready to go back. So just something about sunshine and 65 degrees. I don't know. So let me ask you, Tommy, do you have a favorite NFT artist that when somebody mentions NFT art pops into your head? And why? What sets that person? And I don't mean to put you on the spot like that with the individuals, but what sets that
Yeah,
person apart?
yeah. I mean, I try not to go down that path a little bit just because like all the artists on Nifty Gateway I
Are so
love.
great.
Yeah, but if I had to
Mind
pick a
blowing.
couple, I'd probably say Beeple, obviously, just because the success he's seen in the last few months has been pretty incredible. Trevor Jones is another one. He's been a huge pioneer of the space, and was one of our early most successful drops back in July. Hawk is another one. He actually had a drop with us this week that was super successful. And then another one who's more new to the space, but I just absolutely love her work is Blake Catherine.
Those are all amazing answers. It's seriously hard to come up with a favorite artist right now, but in the NFT world, is as if there was not enough great art already.
Yeah,
And now we're starting to
especially
realize that.
lately.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
crazy. People
lately
keep
we're
coming
just
out of
seeing
nowhere.
we're seeing so many new people come into the space. Like 6 and 5 who we had a drop with tonight. That's someone I didn't even really know of like maybe a month and a half, 2 months ago, and then just comes in and has this awesome drop. So it's been exciting to see.
Yeah, are you looking for your mute button again, Mitch? Or are you expecting me to ask a question?
I was waiting for your question.
This is the point in the live stream where we all just sing Kumbaya and hang around
Right.
friendly around the computer. Yeah,
I didn't have a rebuttal on that because I shamefully don't know those artists, but that's okay. I'm still
that's okay though.
See, he's like so far down the rabbit hole, I couldn't pull him out with a winch and a lifeline if I had to. Whereas I'm still standing on the edge going, hey, you down there in the rabbit hole. So I'm still trying to wrap my head around what the hell an NFT is. What is a non-fungible token? I'm still trying to wrap my head around that. So
yeah. Well, do you want the rundown?
This age thing, you know what I mean?
Let's give him the rundown. I mean, why not?
Give me the rundown, and especially if we have any listeners like Nana, maybe
here's a very simple like one sentence here. NFT non-fungible means that you can tell an individual token apart from any other token. So like with Bitcoin, if you have one Bitcoin, you don't know which Bitcoin you have. You just have a Bitcoin. But with an NFT, an ERC 7721 or any of the other standards, you can know which one. Like that token can have an ID number per se.
Yep. And it's not divisible, like where you can send like a quarter.
Right. You can't send a fraction. It's like it's a thing. It's one token or nothing. And you can identify it individually, which is
so because
otherwise
a Bitcoin is divisible in so many parts. That's why they can't be identified as each Bitcoin wouldn't have an identifier to it.
Right, because really it's just a quantity. It's not there's not a set of coins. It's just a quantity.
Okay.
But people view that quantity as a quantity of coins.
So this is similar to, say, a minted quarter with numbers on the back of it that creates that own quarter's identity.
I would say dollar bill, just only because quarters don't have serial numbers.
Well, I was thinking a coin. Come on,
The
man.
quarter is an excellent example of a fungible token because it's a quarter and you don't know which one you have, but a dollar has a serial numbers and you know which one you have. So there you go. How's that?
Yeah,
work?
That's perfect.
And then what people have been doing, like, and which has basically led to crypto art, is taking image files and then storing those on the token, which, you know,
on-chain artwork is
exactly. Yeah, and it basically just assigns ownership and provenance to that token, which is associated with an artwork. And then it's like, you know, basically digitally signed by the artist who's issuing it. So yeah, it's pretty cool. And like lately, the market's been starting to look a lot like the fine art market in certain ways. So that's been cool to see as well. It's like developed a lot over the last year.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of non-crypto people. I mean, and obviously we've seen a lot of non-crypto artists come into the space, but I think on the large scale, I think the bigger majority of the normal art industry is starting to finally see that this is a thing. Maybe not jumping in yet, but it's kind of like when Bitcoin went crazy in 2017. People started to know it was a thing. You know, they didn't know what Bitcoin was. Now they do. They're still not invested. They might still think it's a scam, but they know what it is. And I think that's sort of what happens in 2020 and 2021 for NFTs and crypto art is people start realizing, oh, this is a thing. You know, they still don't understand why you would want to pay money for digital art, probably because the same argument, I can screenshot it and make it my wallpaper, but they know it's a thing, you know, and then 3-4 years down the road, or maybe 6 months down the road, a year, you know, everything accelerates so fast. It starts to become more real to people and more galleries and actual art auctions and art museums and things like that start looking at the blockchain as a way of taking their collections to another level, more or less, right? And then you have the next step there, like we were talking about earlier, with tying physical objects to tokens. And now you have museums and collections that might be able to have a way to now prove legitimacy of individual artworks, which of course opens its own rabbit holes and problems and disasters that are, you know, caused from that. But it's fun to look at either way.
Yeah, for sure. And I definitely like what you said about like the screenshotting idea. It's like literally the biggest argument that we have of people who are skeptical about the space. They're like, oh, like I can just screenshot that, right? It's like, well, yeah, but the value doesn't come from viewing the screenshot. The value comes from having the token to prove that you own it, right? So
explaining proof of ownership is seemingly simply extremely difficult. They're seemingly simple, but extremely difficult. Like it's just, I don't know. It seems like it would be, if you could say, this is how you can prove that you own the original of this, and people could understand that they would get why taking a screenshot isn't different. But I don't know why that's so hard to get across. I don't know what we need to do to explain it differently to get people to see it. And I think it honestly just kind of comes down to an inherent lack of understanding of what a blockchain is and how it works. Because let's be realistic, if you don't understand how a blockchain works, at least at a basic level, you're not going to understand how that token could be unique and provably original, et cetera. So there's just a lot to learn. And I think as we grow older, you know, generations become more and more, this just becomes normal knowledge, right? And of course, at the same time, the tech is abstracted away and we're left with just nice, fancy UI tools that people don't even know run on a blockchain. So we'll see. It's going to be amazing over the next couple of years.
Agreed. Yep. 100%.
All right. So you, fine.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, it's okay. This is the time that I'm not yelling at you for trying to find your mute button when you're not. So,
right. All right. So Benza had a question, and he's asking, what's the most unique medium that you've seen that's been used?
Question.
The most unique medium, like in what sense? Like what tools?
Well, like you have
creative medium for creating art, I think is what he's meaning. Like, you know, acrylic or like something, some type of innovative.
Acrylic versus digital versus chalk versus, you know, pencil, whatever.
That's a great question. The most creative medium. I mean, I might be biased when I'm saying this, but I feel like digital stored on the blockchain might be the most creative. And like, I'll back it up with why I think that. The reason why being there's so many different things that you can do with it. Like, for example, with Beeple's collection that he dropped, he's dropped 2 with us. The first one, the auction piece, was basically, it was an initial image, and then after purchase, it went to the owner, and we could actually encode into that contract an image that changes based on the outcome of an event. And we encoded that based on the election outcome, which we actually need to like flip the switch on it and have the image change. But basically, it was like an original image that would change to a Trump victory version or a Biden victory version. And obviously, it's looking like Biden's going to win. So we need to like flip it, which can only be done once, and it will change to the Biden win state. So that's really cool. It's basically 3 artworks packed into one. One of those we will never see because Trump isn't going to win the election, and it'll go over to the Biden state, if that makes sense. So it's creative in that sense. And then, another cool one that we did recently was with Pac, who basically, he took the same exact image file and the same exact IPFS hash and assigned it to 9 different artworks. The only thing that was different with those artworks were the amount that were created, the title of the artworks, which all gets stored in the metadata. So it's basically saying like, hey, this artwork is the exact same aesthetic, the exact same image file. The only thing that's different is what's stored in the metadata. So, there's just a lot of cool things that you can do with digital art, specifically stored on the blockchain, that you can't do with physical art, if that makes sense. Like a painting, you paint it once, it stays, that's the painting. With digital art, you can have it change over time. Like another cool one, it changes based on the time of day. If it's 7 in the morning, it turns to day mode. If it's 7 at night, it turns to night mode, if that makes sense.
Yeah, 100%. Programmable art is something that I've been really fascinated by, which is kind of what drew me to async in the beginning. I'm a developer, so it's like right up my alley. Is just any of that. Playing with APIs is basically what I do when I'm bored. So I'm not building professional software out there for anybody because I couldn't stand to be a paid programmer, because I just cannot stand being told what to make. But I like making shit that I find interesting for no important reason. So the concept of programmable art is like, oh, great, I get to make interesting shit for no apparent reason and actually have a purpose for it. So I've been doing a lot of thinking of on-chain art and different ways of getting new data sources involved. And that's really hard with on-chain art because you obviously have the issue of oracles and things like that, and trying to get, you have very limited data that you can access and very limited things you can do. And so you have to build proxies and stuff into there to try to get some of that data through. And it's fascinating to see where it's going to go, because right now, like the examples you're giving, for example, are incredibly simple, but they're revolutionary because it's something that hasn't been done yet. And it's been very difficult to achieve.
Yep.
And so where do we take that in the next level? Like what's the next step? And does, ETH 2.0 changes some things with what you can access because of how things are run. So that's going to open up another step, another level of things that you can do with NFTs. And every evolution of blockchain, regardless of whether it's Ethereum or other projects out there, is just going to open up 100 more doors for what you can do with NFTs.
Yeah, for sure. And it's just been cool seeing all these new ideas come in. It's almost like every week, seemingly, like an artist creates this new idea. There's this really cool one actually done by Matt Kane, where he basically programmed into the artwork the price of Bitcoin. So it changes based on like the volatility of Bitcoin or the price at a given time, which is super cool. I don't know like the full details that went into that. It's super advanced, but just the fact that you're able to do that is insane.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing. I just love seeing all the different mediums too. It's even just some like traditional mediums, like Benza, who asked the question, is a chalk artist, and he does a lot of digital art and stuff too, but some of his chalk art that he's minted is just like, it's fucking mind blowing. He did like, what was it, Mitch? Like 12 foot, like a 12-foot dragon. I don't know.
The dragon and the knight, and oh my god,
yeah, his daughter
intense.
Was the knight. That was so cool.
Yes, that was very cool.
I love it.
Yeah, his artwork is mind-boggling when it comes to the chalk. I mean, this kid's got some crazy talent, and when he puts it into digital form, it's even it's just incredible to see.
Yeah, he said he was going to try to mix up some chalk and digital stuff at some point, so that'll be interesting to see how that kind of goes. But it's that's just the beautiful thing of NFTs. It's not just digital art, and it's not just physical art, and it's just this huge collection and mishmash. And by the time you start combining physical and digital works, you end up with all sorts of different textures and visuals that people have. I mean, you're literally creating stuff that people have never seen before. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's fascinating.
And like somebody in the chat said, and it's fireproof too. I mean, you can have a piece of artwork and it can't get burned.
Yeah,
you don't have
unless
to
you
have
created your
insurance
shit
on
on
it
a
for it
paper
getting
wallet.
stolen. You don't have to store it in a container somewhere with all these other art pieces because you run out of room to store all your art, right?
Yeah.
You could just have this digital file with all of these art pieces and have a monitors all over your house displaying different pieces of art at any given time, and changing on a regular basis is just mind-blowing.
Yeah,
You know,
it's incredible. I mean, and another, another cool thing about it too is just the speed that it gets from one user to another. Like when you purchase an art drops, we pre-mint all of the tokens. So they're already there on chain. When you purchase it, it shows up in your account in seconds. And then you want to sell it on our secondary marketplace, you can do that. Like we had a collection go live on Wednesday. A guy bought a one of a kind for $4,000. And literally 2 minutes later sold it for $12,000, and then it was instantly in the other user's account.
wow.
Pretty incredible. And that's one thing that really does separate it from the fine art market, in that if you purchase a painting in the fine art world and want to resell it, it's like a long and laborious process, whereas here it's like seamless and you can do it in 5 minutes
And make some good money on it too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, well, and your payment options have really bridged the gap for people that don't know about crypto to get in. Because I mean, even if you're somewhat tech savvy but you've never used a crypto wallet, coming in and going on OpenSea and trying to buy something is not going to be the smoothest experience. I mean, it's not that difficult. The UI is a lot better than it used to be, but it's still a few extra steps and important things that you have to think about that most people at this point don't really want to deal with unless you're a crypto nut. So you guys do a good job at abstracting that to make it so the everyday person can actually get in and start buying NFTs without knowing what the blockchain is.
Yeah. And that was a very intentional decision on our part, or like on Duncan and Griffin's part when they first started Nifty Gateway. It was all about like accessibility while still embracing the technology behind the blockchain and utilizing it to its full potential. And that's been really successful for us. I think it's one of the main reasons, if not the main reason, that's allowed us to grow as quickly as we have compared to some of the other platforms out there. Like onboarding is very, very simple for us. We basically compare it to like checking out with Amazon or something like that. But we still do have our crypto options there if for the crypto native folk who want to use Ethereum.
Exactly. You got to support it. You can't totally wipe it out, but it's good to have that other option. And like we talk a lot on the podcast about is, I mean, that's what's required for quote unquote mass adoption. I mean, you can't expect the entire world to decide that they're going to learn what Ethereum is and have a MetaMask wallet. I mean, it's just not going to happen. It has to be a smooth. It has to be like PayPal, right? I mean, let's not say like PayPal because that's terrifying. But
Thank you.
It has to be as simple and dumb and easy to use as PayPal. It's got to be quick. It's got to be simple. That's the same with any software, and it's just certain types of tech are much more difficult to achieve that with, like blockchain, for example.
Yeah, for sure. And then once people get that like first taste of it, like it really starts to click for them, So we don't want to shut people out by saying like, hey, like here you have to sign up with a crypto wallet and do all of this stuff to make your first purchase, because that's going to turn off a lot of people. Whereas if they can do their first one with a credit card and like buy it, works really well, super easy process, then they can start getting into the platform more and getting invested in the tech and, actually understanding how it works, if that makes sense.
Yeah, you got to open the door to pull them into the rabbit hole.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
So more, fine.
Well,
we keep both trying to go at the same time. Nope, it's not time for this question yet. You drop yours because we'll leave this one for a little bit longer.
All right.
We'll let it roll.
So if NFTs are like your primary focus, what do you see? Where do you see them going in, say, the next year and a half, in relation to cryptocurrency? Do you see them like really taking over as far as projects and stuff like that go? Because this is so new still to so many of us, and we're still so early. Like the professor said, things need to be made easier. everything needs to be made easier for people to interact, for people to know how. I mean, the people that have been in crypto for so long have that up already, right? We have that advantage because we've already been in this space. But how do you see it evolving for, say, new users?
I think for one, it's really going to increase the value prop for Ethereum in the next couple of years. And what I'm really hoping is that Ethereum 2.0 gets here, because that can be a limiting factor at times. Like you guys were saying, like it can sometimes cost $100 to mint a token onto the Ethereum blockchain if gas prices are high. So I'm hoping that within the next 2 to 3 years, that gets out the door and allows for a lot of projects to scale up a lot. And then I also see a lot more mainstream partners coming in. I mean, I know that we've been talking to a ton of people who are outside the crypto space, both artists, musicians, esports teams, who are all not crypto native, and their audiences are not crypto native. So, once those projects launch and we successfully bring more people into the space, I think it's really going to start to grow exponentially. And I'm hoping that, within the next couple of years, it gets to a mainstream point where if you ask someone about NFTs, they know what you're talking about to a degree. I don't think that's more of a long-term goal, but I just see it like the growth being sustained and like a ton of new people coming into the space. That's what we've been seeing, and it like hasn't shown any signs of slowing down. So I don't see why that trend wouldn't continue.
All right. Cool. So the real important question of the night, this is a big one. If you had to replace any part of your car with cheese, what part would it be? What type of cheese would you use and why?
Ooh. That is a fantastic question. Steering wheel, Swiss, and why? It's my favorite cheese, and you can never have too much Swiss, I guess. Close on hand, you're always in the steering wheel. I don't know. It's a good question.
Yeah. It also brings to mind whether or not physics have to be applied and considered. Because if not, then I like that idea. If they do, then I'd be really terrified of having a cheese steering wheel.
There's a lot of holes in that theory.
I got a calendar of dad jokes for Christmas.
Hey, that was a good one, dude.
That was a good one. That was a good one.
It was required. You couldn't not make that. Anytime somebody talks about Swiss cheese, you got to drop a dad joke.
I set you up for that.
Indeed. Professional.
Oh,
you're just going to have to take over for me.
So if that was what you would replace on your vehicle, let's get into a body part. If you were going to replace one of your body parts with any household item, what would it be and what would you use it for?
Huh.
Got to ask two funny ones.
This one's harder. Probably my pinky toe, because I don't really use that. So it wouldn't really change my life that much to replace it with something. And then what would I replace it with? Household item.
A door knocker.
What?
A door knocker.
Why?
I don't know.
I don't know. Toothbrush, maybe? No, that's too big. I don't know. That's a good question.
That's a lot of work. You could have like an extendy toothbrush.
Yeah.
From a pinky toe?
I mean,
you smell your feet while you're brushing your teeth? Come on, man.
I wouldn't recommend it, but if you're going to have a toothbrush, I recommend it be an extendy one. That's all I guess
if you brushed your teeth after you took a shower and washed your feet, okay.
See, just do it in the shower. Problem solved. I like it. That's a good one. Okay, so let's go way back to your childhood. There's got to be. Should we ask him about getting in trouble, or do we think he's a troublemaker and we're going to incriminate him?
He looks like he was a troublemaker as a kid, so I think you need to ask the question.
So we should incriminate. Okay, so go ahead and feel free to incriminate yourself. But what was the most trouble you got in as a kid?
Ooh. You guys were right. Totally was a troublemaker.
Call that shit.
Knew it.
The most trouble I got in. These are good questions. I'm trying to think. I think there was, oh, I know exactly the one.
There it is. There it is.
Probably when I was like 8 years old. I have an older brother who's 2 years older than me. Well, a year and a half. So I'm sure you can imagine how that relationship has gone at times. So we used to always play indoor baseball in our basement. And he's an older brother, so he would annoy me all the time. And we were using like a plastic bat, like nothing, it's not gonna hurt anyone if they get hit with it, right?
Right.
So he just really annoyed me one day, I don't even remember what he was doing. It was such a long time ago, and just really pissing me off. And then I threw the bat at him. And I didn't think it was going to hurt him that much. I was like, it's a plastic bat. Like, what's it going to do? Bounce off
Busted
him?
a tooth?
No, it just hit him in the head, and he got really pissed off and cried and told my mom. And yeah, that was not fun. Instantly regretted it.
Wait, you could did mom beat your ass with a bat? Because if not, then that's
not
just
with a bat. But
you got your ass beat. Wait, do you remember the sound it made?
No.
It definitely made a sound. I'm just picturing this a YouTube video of the girl that hits the other girl with the shovel. You know that one?
Oh, I do.
The sound, yeah. I just imagine the slightly less metallic version of that.
Well, a plastic bat, yeah, that's not gonna hurt. You've seen the welts them damn things leave.
Especially if you're throwing it. I'm assuming it kind of went lengthwise and plinked him with the end of the bat, probably. Not so.
Yeah, I think that's what happened. I was like, the middle's hollow. The handle's hard, and I think I hit him with the handle. So not intentional.
So now that we've established your future as an assault person with deadly weapons or with non-deadly weapons.
Non-deadly weapons. Attempted murder with non-deadly weapons.
Yeah. What do you consider your best tool of offense and defense now? If at 8 years old you chose a bat as your best tool, what would you choose it today as your best tool?
For defense?
Yeah.
I mean, probably an assault rifle if I had to pick something.
Wait, we're talking about bats and playing games and you're throwing them at your friends. Now you're pulling up assault rifles and shooting.
Said anything.
And tanks, you left it open. I'm with him. Tanks, yeah, tanks. That's the best mechanism of offense
shooting
and
Nerf
defense.
Bullets or what?
Fuck no. 40 mils.
Oh, all right.
I want a tank.
I love it.
You can own a tank. I mean, to an extent. I want a tank.
Have you ever drove a tank?
I don't need to have driven one to own one. I can learn one, but I have to have one first. You see?
Oh, dude, I'll tell you what. There's not a car or vehicle that you could drive today that would compare with driving that multi-ton vehicle over rough terrain, and it feels like you're gliding on a freaking waterbed.
That would be sick.
I'm telling you, it's so, you're laid back in this Recaro seat and you're basically almost horizontal. You're propped up a little bit, and you got this periscope around you with vision glasses, and you got this T-bar and a thumb throttle that you're driving with. And, you got your tank commander on the top going, stop, slow down. You're going to hit that hole. Boom. He ends up with broken ribs and you're going, what'd I hit? It's pretty crazy. Sorry. Got off.
That's the best kind of stories. I don't know. Now I really want to own a tank. I thought I wanted to own a tank 5 minutes ago. Holy fuck.
When you're driving in this parade of tanks and you're all driving through the desert and there's nothing but dust, right? And all that dust sticks to your freaking your periscopes and you can't see, and there's not some little munchkin out there or wiper blade wiping them off for you. So you're going blind by your tank commander going right, left, look out, and it's
so what you're saying is it's his problem.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
That's what
you hit that hole.
You,
you motherfucker, see? You hit the hole. Just vicariously through me. Kiss my ass.
Shit.
Okay, Tommy, let's go back to art real quick. Let's look outside of the NFT space. I'm kind of curious if there was one artist outside of NFTs that you would really love to get into the NFT space, who would it be?
Great question. I actually get asked this a lot, and I pretty much give the same answer every time. I would say Cause. He is a super popular artist. He does both paintings and sculptures, both high price points and low price points. He also does public installations. He did this really cool one where He had like a massive inflatable. It's basically like his trademark sculpture. He had a massive inflatable one and put it in a large body of water. I forget which one it was. It was this really cool public display, and that gave him a lot of notoriety. But he's a huge name in the art world, and we actually had a meeting with him a while ago, pre-launch, like before we'd even launched Nifty Gateway. He came into the Gemini offices through a meeting that was set up by Tyler and Cameron Winklevoss. I don't know if you guys knew, but they own Gemini, who owns Nifty Gateway.
Yep.
So that was cool, and they like set up a meeting with him. I honestly don't even know how they got in touch. Those guys can get a meeting with pretty much anyone. We like chatted with him about 30 minutes, and like unfortunately he wasn't really interested in the NFT idea. He's still kind of skeptical about it, which is understandable. If you're making like millions and millions of dollars selling your work in the fine art world, I totally get why you wouldn't want to take the dive into NFTs. But he's like for sure a dream partner of mine. So hopefully that happens someday. I mean, we'll see.
That'd be amazing. Fingers crossed. I mean, it's everybody does eventually come around at some point. You know,
Yeah.
I use that term generically across multiple industries, and it sort of applies, you know, but not always, not necessarily. It's still one of those really, like we say, it's difficult to understand tech, and it's a difficult thing to wrap your head around and to trust, because you really have to be able to trust the code.
Yeah.
So if you're not into the tech, it's kind of hard to form that trust. And so I think a lot of people are in it because they trust people more than they trust the tech.
Yeah.
So that makes it kind of difficult. And like you say, if you're selling so much in the fine art world, going to a digital platform alone just probably would feel scary. Not if you were just, and I don't mean switch entirely, but even just putting some of your work out there digitally, it just feels like you're cheapening your work, I would think. From trying to think in their shoes, you know, from somebody who doesn't really understand the value of NFTs. I think that's kind of the perspective that people have.
For sure. Yeah, I definitely see that side to it. It's just like, it's kind of a hard thing to wrap your head around at first, which is why it's difficult to get big partners on in the first place. I think now things are a little bit different because we actually have like numbers to back it up. You know what I mean? Like that was before we even launched the platform. So it was kind of just like, hey, like join this thing that we haven't even launched yet. We don't know how it's going to do. Whereas now it's like, hey, this artist sold X amount and you could do the same thing. So that's a better pitch, really.
Right, exactly. Instead of trying to get them right into the tech right off the bat.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. I'm going to change the subject a little bit. When it comes to projects within the crypto space outside of the NFT world, do you have any favorites? And you know, it doesn't necessarily have to be a currency, or it could be, you know, it could be any of the projects that you see coming in to the space. Because I would imagine your bubble is relatively tight, being that your primary focus is NFTs, but I'm sure you have some peripherals out there.
Yeah, I think one that that I'm pretty excited about is Chainlink, just in general, the ability to take off-chain data and put it on chain. That's really exciting. I think it's super untapped, and like there's a world of possibilities there. So I'm really looking forward to see how that develops in the next couple of years. I have high hopes for it. That's why I own some links. So hopefully it definitely takes off for that reason. But yeah, that's one thing that really excites me. I think there's like a big future there and a lot of potential.
Awesome. So last question, what drop has blown your mind most? And I don't mean from a financial standpoint, but I just mean like as a person looking at art, like and this is putting you on the spot again, but if you could pick one drop of yours, which one have you been most excited about the art in that drop?
I think one that I would probably pick is actually a recent collection that we did about 2 weeks ago or so. And that was a collaboration between Thank You X and JN Silva. For background, Thank You X is a painter and has done some stuff with digital art before. And JN Silva is a photographer. And that collection was really cool because basically JN Silva took a lot of the photographs he had taken of New York City. And then Thank You X took like a painting and put it onto like a digital rendered cube and had it animated into the photographs, where it kind of looked like they were like falling out of the sky or like rolling and coming at you in some of the frames. So that was really cool. It was like this incredible blend of photography and digital art that I hadn't even really thought of before and didn't know that there was like big potential there. And they came to me with the idea and they're like, hey, like he's a photographer, like I'm a painter, like you guys want to do a collection? And I was like, all right, like let's try it. And then they released that and it was pretty incredible. And it got my head spinning with all the possibilities of the intersection between photography, digital art, and NFTs. So
Right.
that was really cool to see. And the fact that it took place in New York City where the Gemini offices are, that was pretty cool as well.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love that drop. And that's it. Kind of connected with it a little bit because my favorite way to do art is I like to mix photography and digital art and some physical stuff and digital art. So it's like it was really exciting to me to see the way that they approached it, because it was, like you said, it was totally different, totally unique, and it definitely was mind-blowing. I would describe it as that for sure.
Yeah, it's just it's something I hadn't even really thought about too much. Like there had been a few photographers that had reached out to us in the past about a drop, and it just it's a tough fit, I would say, for the medium. But then when you bring in this aspect of animations and like a digital art blend to it, it like makes it fit the medium perfectly. So
yeah,
that was really
amazing.
cool. Yeah, hopefully we see more of that someday.
So I know that was supposed to be the last question, but Tommy, I'd like for you to pick a number between 35K and 75K. Just a random number.
We're holding him to this, right? This is financial advice, documented and recorded.
I said pick a number. What's that have to do with anything? Quit reading into it.
Can I go higher than 75K?
Absolutely.
That's the right answer.
What's that?
500K.
500. Wow.
I'm down with that.
Okay.
I'm down with that.
I'm writing that shit down.
You're not allowed to sell.
Not allowed to sell. You better hodl through 500K. God
damn straight.
We're going right to $1 million.
Hell yeah. Interesting enough, there was a show that I was listening to earlier today. Litecoin Lisa, Johnny Litecoin, and Bix Ware were on this talk, and they were talking about, and it kind of relates to this. They were talking about value, and they were talking about if a third party has cryptocurrencies and all of a sudden the dollar crashes and therefore the value crash, bankruptcy and all that stuff. At what point do we start seeing cryptocurrencies outside of a dollar value? Because as long as we continue to relate the value of the currency that we're holding to dollars, then it's kind of dependent on that. But as soon as we switch and start using that as valued in that currency rather than dollars, that's when I think we may attain some value when the dollar does crash. What do you think?
Yeah, I totally agree. And honestly, like tying this back into what we're doing in a way, it's just been like lately with the Ethereum pump, a lot of these websites that are listed completely in Ethereum, it just completely changes the value of all the artwork listed on that site, right? Like it goes from being valued at like an artwork that you sell for 1 Ethereum like 6 months ago, that's like $500. And if you sell that same artwork now for 1 Ethereum, it's over $1,000. So it's weird in that sense. Like it's highly variable where, things are valued very differently at different periods of time because we correlate it with the dollar. If it was just Ethereum, then it would be different. So, maybe we do get to that point someday where there's less of a correlation between the dollar and it's more like its own independent thing, which, inherently would create more value.
Well, it takes that shift in the mindset. It takes that shift in the way we've been indoctrinated into value and what we see as value and what we relate value to. We've always related value to dollar bills, right? Yeah. So when that dollar bill exists no more, then what do we relate that value to? Back in the day, it was 2 chickens were worth, a dozen eggs.
Yep.
Well, now, what's a cow worth? Is it worth 10 chickens? Or is it worth, so it's kind of the same thing with Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. Once we start looking at them as individual values, that car is a Bitcoin at 1.5 Bitcoin, or that, that house is going to cost you 3 Bitcoin or whatever. And I think that's the best way that we can go about wrapping our head around maintaining a value of what we hold.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a really interesting thought. And I think we will start to see more of that, especially as there are like more applications that come into play for crypto, like things that you can do with it. It's going to be much easier to assign value to it in that sense. So it's exciting.
It is exciting, isn't it? I mean, think about the time that we're in. Think about how long cryptocurrency has been around. Think of and blockchain, and look what it's evolved to in just 12 years, right? And
Yep.
consider in the past 5 years, we've had this explosion of growth outside of your standard currencies and ICOs, right? We've had this explosive growth, and look what that's taken us to in just 5 years or 4 years. Consider what the hell is going to happen in the next 3. It's mind-boggling.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Think about
or
how
like-
much cell phones changed in 12 years.
Right?
exactly.
Jeez. I mean, those alone, even in 2 years, whatever, it's just exponential. So it's pretty intense.
It is.
Yeah.
Either way, the future is going to be fucking beautiful. I'm so excited to be in this
Well,
world.
We're going to be in it for a while. So of course,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
I just
You
keep
got-
getting prettier with time.
I don't know about
Unless I
that kind of
shave,
beautiful, but you know, I mean,
Really. I'm going to hide my face in shame. I'm going
Do
to
you-
wear a paper bag to the next podcast.
why?
Just to save the people. Just to save the people.
Whatever.
No, this has been a good one, Tommy. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Shout out to CoinFlip ATMs for sponsoring this episode. If you check them out, coinflip.tech, they've got a map on their website where you can take a look at all their ATM locations. See if there's one near you. If there is, you can go try it out, see what you think. If not, let us know, and maybe we can get one out there for you.
Guys in the chat, thanks for joining us. Thank you everybody for watching the show. Thanks for your support. If it wasn't for you guys, we wouldn't have this show. We wouldn't have people to talk to. And Tommy,
That's
again,
a fact.
thank you so much for coming on the show. This has been amazing, and I look forward to having another discussion with you in the future. Absolutely.
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks so much for having me, guys. Really appreciate it. It was a lot of fun.
Cool.
Yeah,
We
it was
hope you
awesome.
enjoyed yourself.
Yep.
All right, guys. We'll catch you on the next one.
Take it easy.
Peace.
Awesome.
Cool.